Yeah, I was just finishing this booklet complete, and in one part, I just really got into this trip about eternity and how when we really come into this deep realization of eternity and how everything is a pattern and a cycle and is repeating infinitely, literally, like, and the realization comes that there is no ending the cycle, there is no breaking the cycle. That is a very, it's a, it can go anyway, but usually at some point there is a deep depression and this desperation, because in that realization, it's a realization of all the pain and darkness that you have experienced, and that is never going to end, and there will be infinite more experience of the same nature.
Are you saying that on some level, when you do go through a depression and you feel that kind of pain, you're on some level,
No,
you
this
know,
is not even going through depression. This is like you can be in a high, you can be realizing infinity. But
mhm,
when you really come to understand what is infinity,
yeah, it's
it-
everything.
it's everything. So it's like when you come into that, the totality of experience,
Hmm.
you come to realize that this is the resistance we really have to life, is the resistance to pain. Is that
Hmm.
whenever we are buying the ticket for a ride in the amusement park of life, the price is some amount of pain,
Hmm.
either during the experience or the end of the experience or something or the other, there is pain. So when the realization happens of pain and that there will be infinite more experiences of that too, there is this desperation that awakens deep in the human soul or spirit or whatever you want to call it in the psyche of wanting to end it. And I feel like this is what all the illusion of spiritual practice and all these systems and everything is about, is how can we stop pain? How can we end pain? How can we avoid pain? And the whole book complete is that there is no end to it. So stop fighting it, stop resisting it. And like when you come into that state, when you have stopped resisting and avoiding and you just don't even think about it. Like you don't need to keep thinking about pain. It's like just okay, I am accepting today, right now in this moment, I'm accepting that pain is a reality, pain is part of life. I don't need to keep thinking about it again. Then I'm just living, and whenever pain comes, it comes. So I keep moving through it. And that is when I feel like you really come into the joy of life, is that all the resistance has dropped. And so you can buy a ticket to any of the rides on the amusement park. And because you are ready to pay whatever price comes with it. So if you want to be famous, you want to be rich, you want to be beautiful, you want to be whatever, you are also knowing the price that comes with it. You want to be in love, you want to be in a relationship, you want to have a child, a dog. There is an acceptance of the pain that comes with it. And my feeling is that all of this is deeply encoded into the psyche already, in that unconsciously we are already there. So unconsciously we are already awake. Like we already know all of this unconsciously. So we keep living. And that is why that is what the survival mindset is, that we keep living knowing all the shit that life has to offer. We still keep going. Like for me, it was like the dawning of the realization why people don't end up killing themselves when they become old. And why do they go through all of that shit? Is that everything is an experience and you just embrace the experience, whatever it is. But you're not focusing on the shit, focusing on the beauty of life. And even if you're focusing on the shit, that is the experience the soul wants to have. Like that too is a divine experience. So it's like You're not separating anything out as a divine experience and saying this is divine, this is spiritual, this is good, this is bad. Like there is like the judgment really just drops away, and you're just like everything is a divine experience, and everything about me is divine. I am divine. My consciousness, like just being alive, life is a divine experience. So that's the trip I have been on.
Goodness.
Which was
Um,
fun. Like it is a fun trip because I feel like this is enlightenment. Like this is the enlightenment experience, really. It's like when you just drop the resistance, you enter into that enlightened state, and then there is nothing left to do. It's like you are complete. Like this is the whole point, is that there is no more seeking. There is no more, oh, but what about this? But what it's very simple. It all comes down to pain and pleasure, joy, acceptance, resistance. It's like these are super simple concepts, and once you get them, you don't need to overcomplicate anything. You don't need to seek spirituality. You don't need a spiritual path or anything. It's just like now I'll just live and I do what I want. If I like to eat, I eat. If I like to overeat, I overeat. But like it's like I just do whatever because at the end of the day, nothing really matters. Everything is just going to keep going. The cycles will just keep happening. And if I don't feel good, I stop doing what doesn't feel good. And I like, it's like it just really becomes very simple. For some time I do it because I like it. Then realize I'm overdoing it. So I stop overdoing it. It's like, yeah, like it's just loop. It's just like that's that's my favorite word. It's the end.
uh-huh. Yeah. Um, then why, yeah, you're right. I completely agree with all of that. Why do you think we are so in like we seem to come into this world already feeling like we can't handle pain? Like we're so most of us are so conditioned to believe that any amount of pain is overwhelming because otherwise we wouldn't have such strong defense mechanisms against it. Like,
Yeah, but I also feel like that is the game. It's like the avoidance of pain is the game of life. And that is just like, my fight with the system has really ended in totality. Like I just love the system now. I love the matrix for what it is.
I th-
Because it's just like it's this it's offering every experience life has. And
Mhm.
you just when you come full circle, you realize that yeah, this is what I have come here for, is to experience life in this moment that this era of humanity is what I have come to experience, and whatever this era has to offer. So the avoidance of pain itself is the game I have come to play, if that is the game I'm playing. And those who are done playing the game will like this teaching and they will stop playing it for maybe a few years, maybe a lifetime, maybe 10 lifetimes, and then they'll get bored of playing that game and they'll go back to the game. So it's like you just come into this, like, yeah, in infinity, there are infinite experiences, and I will end up having all of them. And like, I have, I keep reminding myself, what is it I want to feel now? If I want, like, if I want to feel joy, it's available. The experience is available. If I don't want to put an effort, I can just automatically experience whatever life is giving me. If that's pain, if that is sadness, whatever, depression, okay. Like, if I really surrender, I can just become an automatic robot again. And that is also a spiritual life. So there is like, but it's like living the robotic as an awakened being. I think that's a very interesting experience.
Yes, that's very different. But can I just go back to one of the consequences of this viewpoint is that enlightenment, enlightened living has an expiration because eventually, on some level, you will get bored of.
In my opinion, what like if we talk about the Buddha or Osho, these people who were like, when I'm done, I'm done. I'm going into nirvana and I'm not coming back. But this is also like a concept that they created. That like Buddhism, a Buddha created the concept that there is no self, but a self created the concept that there is no self because again, it's like the self is the cause of suffering. So let me end the self by pretending that there is no self, and I will have this illusion of no self, and then I will pretend that I will never come back, or I will tell myself, or I will convince myself, or I will believe that I will never come back. And I will disappear for some time. And then I will disappear for some time. And then I will realize I'm just sitting and doing nothing in the void. I'm bored. I've done nothing for enough time.
Yeah.
Now I want to do something else. So that's my feeling is that at some point, like this is very beautifully captured in the show, The Good Place. The fourth season of The Good Place is so profound and it's so beautiful where they finally they reach the real good place, they reach heaven, and everyone has just become a brain dead zombie because they've been living for thousands of years in perfection and they've got everything they want, and it's like there is nothing left. And then they create again the return path from heaven where it's like, okay, this is not what I want. I don't want perfection. So how do I keep myself occupied? Like that's why I have started recently loving the word occupation. It's because this is what life is all about, is keeping yourself occupied, having experiences. And yeah, that's what I have to say to that. I don't know what you asked, but that's my answer.
Yeah, yeah, that you need, like you were saying, the cycles, you need variety. After a while, there's a buffet of every conceivable experience available to us, and we, no matter what you think you want the most, which for most people is no pain, like perfection, like you said, there will
And
come.
yeah, like this is the key, is to stop wanting what you don't want and want what you want and go have that experience. It's like this, I think, is the key shift of enlightenment, is stop wanting what you don't want. And like even the movie The Secret or the book The Secret is all about this. It's like want what you want
Mhm.
instead of wanting what you don't want. The moment you start wanting what you don't want, you keep having what you don't want. So you don't want pain, stop thinking about pain, stop fighting pain, stop resisting pain, and it goes away. But if you keep thinking, even at whatever unconscious level, I don't want pain, it's the reality you keep creating. So that's why a lot of people, when they hit enlightenment, like there is not a lot of suffering or pain in their life because they're not thinking about it anymore. They have come into that acceptance. That's where I started this episode, was like, you come into the acceptance and you just stop thinking about, okay, pain, I will deal with it when it comes. And I will experience it when it comes, and I will also see that as a divine experience when it comes.
Because yeah, like presumably an enlightened being is going to experience pain. I don't know when I say presumably, actually, like, do you believe you experience pain differently when you are like,
What you would stop experiencing, in my opinion, unless you want to have that experience, you would stop experiencing the pain of stories that you create. So I will not experience the pain of someone dying because my story about death is great. I love death. I love people dying when it's natural. Not, I'm not saying I love killing people. I just love like death is just natural, and like I just celebrate their life. I love that they live, and I cherish. So like one of the lines in the book is that I enjoy the high violet glass and I cherish it when I'm in the low. So yeah, it's like, okay, th- if I create a bad story about death, then I will experience the pain of someone dying or even my own death. But if I don't have any story about it, there is nothing to suffer. So that's my opinion is that an enlightened person will usually choose not to experience the pain of stories or stories of pain, whatever way you want to put it. They will experience just whatever is completely natural. Like I hit my knee on the table very badly a few days ago and I'm in pain. That sucks, but that's the pain. Like, okay, like that's just a natural pain of life. So, but it's not like I'm obsessing and complaining about it all the time. I complain about it maybe once a day, and today's quota is done. So, and even that, I like complaining about it. I enjoy it. Like little bit complaining is fun. Little bit gossip, little bit everything. Like I enjoy the small doses of these things here and there, but
Yeah.
beyond the point, yeah, I prefer some other experience. I like eating candy. I'm just looking at my wife
Yeah.
who's listening. I like eating candy. I'm seeing her reaction to that. There is no reaction.
None at all. She's not surprised. No. That's really funny.
And I think this is also the thing about love is that you just when you are in enlightenment and you are in love, you just love the other person for who they are. And you don't like, I feel like a lot of people are just naturally enlightened and just don't know it. Like I
Mm.
was telling Ruta, my wife, who I just talked about 2 seconds ago, that that she's a Buddha and she's like, I don't care about all of this nonsense. Like I don't care about these labels and terms. I'm like, yeah, you don't because you are it. You are already living it. And I feel like so many people are just living in
Mm.
enlightened love and enlightened lives. And they're just living like a lot of musicians are in this total spiritual ecstasy when they're creating.
Yes.
And like you can see that they are super enlightened in that moment. They're channeling the divine in that moment. And then the only difference is that some people are just channeling the divine in their whole life in all aspects of it. So it's for me, it's just degrees of enlightenment. That's what I was saying earlier, is that really, I feel like everyone is living an enlightened experience, a divine experience. And a very controversial opinion would be that even Hitler was a divine being. I my opinion is that the devil is God's ugliest mask,
Mm.
in a manner of speaking. It's ugly. Like some people will even find it hot, I'm sure, but
Mhm.
ugly in this metaphorical sense of like unpleasant or representing pain or whatever. But like you have the masochists and the sadomasochists who also think pain is pleasure and pain is hot or
Mhm. Yeah.
ugliness is sexy or whatever Yeah.
Yeah.
So like Bahia is a great example because here the concept of beauty is completely flipped from the West. Like the men are super traditionally, classically hot. They are super buffed, very muscular, fit, but the women are big, like gigantic. And the bigger they are, the more they are loved. It's like I have more to love. That's what the man thinks. I have more to love. I have more to touch, more to feel. So, like gigantic boobs, gigantic asses, gigantic bellies, everything has to be big. And like it's weird for the Western mind, but that's, like, yeah, like someone can be loved everywhere. So if like you're not loved somewhere, just find another place on earth where you're loved. Like that's what I have learned from this experience in living in Bangalore.
That's wonderful. It is great. You're so right. We all see it like when we do go traveling that you know, there's always when you go traveling that thought that crosses my mind at some point where I'm like, good for them, not for me, but good for them, you know.
Yeah, like I am very judgmental. Like sometimes I'll be like, really, this person can be loved? Like, how? And like they can be. It's like, yeah, like you said, I don't think I can romantically be interested in this person. I can love them in this very holistic spiritual way, like blah blah. But like, in this like very human romantic way, like I don't think I can love them. But someone can, or many people can, and it's amazing.
It's it truly is incredible actually when you think about it. Like I think this when I hear about types of porn,
Yeah.
there- it's so creative. It's so creative, and the demand for any of it is there. Like it exists because there are people who want that very specific tentacle porn. You know, that's what they're into. If you look, you got a tentacle on your head. That's the thing for
I
someone. Like
never
someone's,
even knew that existed. That's amazing.
my God, it is incredible. It's incredible. So yeah,
But I
but
think what yeah, it's in what was coming to my mind is, recently Ruta was pointing to this map of consciousness by David or Richard Hawkins
I,
or Dawkins,
I
whatever.
just looked it up. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And in that, the lowest frequency is shame and the highest frequency is enlightenment. Like I have known this intuitively for a very long time. I had this big argument with this guy who was like, fear is the worst human experience. I'm like, no, shame is way worse. Because fear, if you talk about the biggest fear is the fear of death, right? Like what's worse than that? Okay, fear of death. But once you transcend the fear of death, suppose you realize that you are immortal and life is eternal, and pain doesn't go away uh with death, then like shame is the lowest experience because that can go on forever. Suppose you're humiliated, like gods make fun of you, look at how pathetic you are. Like you have to live with that for eternity. That's so like you can't die to escape it. So like yeah, and like I knew this intuitively, like shame is the lowest experience and enlightenment is the highest. And what describing all of this, it's like basically like enlightenment is a complete liberation from shame, where you have total acceptance for yourself and life and reality. And okay, you may have this human judgment about appearance, but like I said, at a spiritual level, at this really deep level, you have an acceptance for everything and everyone. And so there may be someone who may not match your taste in an appearance, but I can still love them. I have worked with a lot of people who I would not want to be with, but I still work with them and I have real acceptance and love for them and they feel it. And that's why they can work with me is that, I like they can feel that I have that openness and acceptance towards them. And there was this phase in the group. I don't know if you may remember that I was posting these videos of people who, have deformities or like look a certain way and like they have conquered everything to like, there was this guy without limbs or something who
Yeah.
ended up still being great in life and like the people who look weird or deformed and like they still manage to talk on TED or TEDx or whatever. So like really like it's really about you reaching that acceptance in yourself. That for me is like personal enlightenment. And when you have that for yourself, it just automatically translates to having it for everyone and everything. But the moment there is that resistance or rejection of someone else, it's a reflection that you have not reached that place in yourself or for some part of yourself.
Oh, I love what you just said so much because one, look, most coaches I feel go down this route of I am loving and accepting because I'm like because of my profession, I'm not capable of judging anything. You know?
The persona, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Even
And
spiritual teachers, it's like, yeah, like I feel like it's very present in the whole culture of spirituality and personal development and coaching. Yeah.
mhm. I was really all day actually this confronting shame has been on my mind. Been really like
Mhm.
mulling it over. Because um I because of sessions that I've had recently with a client who was very reluctant to show me the shame and the messiness, you know. And the reason for that is because we're also friends. And so, you know, it's one thing to show it. Sometimes it, I don't know, depending on the person, it can be better or easier or harder for them if it's a stranger. But in this instance, it was definitely a lot more challenging. And I really wanted to make the point that, you know, it's not, uh, yeah, it's the what I love is beyond all of that. First of all, it's like the being, the essence of the person, their presence. That's what I really enjoy being around them. So that's firstly, but secondly, yeah, that the reason I can accept and love those parts of her is to the degree to which I have accepted the shame in me. Like that's all it kind of well, that's how I feel anyways. Like that's what it boils down to is if I have dealt with um my shame, then I can hold space for people and their shame and accept it. So
So basically, what you're saying is that you are pretty enlightened.
that's
And
exactly what I
also, you are announcing finally to the world that you have a coaching practice and you're available.
oh,
Oh, finally.
you you got me there. You finally, yes, I am announcing that. I guess. Yeah. Yeah. But you know what? That brings me to another question I had that popped up in my head as you were explaining, you know, the buffet of life. It's interesting then that this is your profession, is is to help people move through all of these experiences and get closer to what they do want and further away from what they don't. But you're simultaneously holding this complete outlook, this whole like
But I don't
over.
know. That is my profession. Like you are describing that as my profession. Firstly, I don't even know if I have a profession anymore. I have occupations. I'm loving this word more and more. I
Okay.
have vocations, I have occupations, I have passion,
Hmm,
but I don't feel like I have a profession.
I see.
I
Okay.
don't like, yeah, I can be professional. I can pretend to have a profession, but like my vocation, my gift is like, yeah, to, I don't even know, like, it's not really about helping people to get away from what they don't want. At this stage, I would say it's like helping people to reach acceptance, to reach enlightenment, to reach completeness. Like today, just, like Trutha was recording another podcast, and while she was talking, I was overhearing her. I was spying on her. uh, I was like, okay, now I want to use the term somewhere completeness coach or completion coach. And like, it's like, I
Mm,
don't want clients forever. I just want people to have a few sessions to realize that they're divine beings, that they're complete. They don't need anything. They don't need anyone. It's like I even changed my name and headline on LinkedIn, which is like uh bring your inner guidance system to life permanently. That's what I put. And
mm,
like I think that can happen very quickly. That if for someone who wants that and someone who's ready for it, I don't think it takes more than a few sessions. And then like Yeah, that's it. You got it. You have your own guidance system. You don't need me or anyone. And then if you want to learn a skill, you hire a teacher for that skill, but you don't need it for this inner self-knowing, enlightenment, purpose, blah blah bullshit. Like you don't
Yeah.
need someone to figure out your purpose. You don't need an intuition coach and all of this nonsense. It's like you are just connected. The connection has been made, it's done. Move on. So I feel like this is now my new profession. I'm just announcing it. I'm a completeness coach. It's one of my professions.
That's great. I love that.
Oh,
Completeness coach. Yeah.
yeah,
You know,
yeah.
there is something in that when you say completion coach, a part of me goes, I want to play the game. I don't want to
And
be.
that's the point. Like my goal is to get people to play the game fully, to fully immerse themselves in the game, like become complete, and then you realize that I'm here to play the game. And there's
Mm,
no nonsense and bullshit. There's no procrastination. There's no avoidance. There's no obligation. There's no compulsion. You're fully doing what you're passionate about. You're fully playing the game that you really want to play. And I think that's the beauty of it. Like that's my pitch. That's my tagline.
it's brilliant.
Is you're fully ready to play live.
Mm,
You have
mm.
no more excuses left. And if you want to play the game of excuses, you can continue playing it, obviously. No one's stopping you from doing that. It's just that now you know you're playing the game of excuse and play it as long as you want. If you have the liberty and the privilege to play the game of excuses, keep playing the game of excuses. I had that privilege and I played it for several years, many years. And at some level, I was enjoying it. And then I was done with that game and I started playing a different game. So I feel like this whole episode really is about permission, a lot of permissions that get buried in shame. It's like when you liberate yourself, you have those permissions.
This is what true unconditional love and acceptance is that whoever is in front of you, I imagine you're just like, I'll support you in whatever game you want to play. Like I'm how can I help? And even if that game is one that you feel isn't helping them get to what they say they want, if you can sense they still want to go in that direction, you're like, fine, now.
What happened is, like there's one client I had, and what I realized is that what they wanted was the game of suffering. And what the whole last call about, I think I may have spoken 5 sentences. And all I said is like, I think you've got what you want. You're doing exactly what you want. You're playing the game of suffering. Just play it fully. I'm not going to stop you anymore. And that is where we closed. And that's where we completed the coaching. Was like, you got what you wanted. Now there is no shame. There is no resistance. There is no one telling you don't play this game. Play it fully. You want to indulge in all of this shit, do it. I'm not going to be by your side because I don't want to have that experience. But you have already, like, you have reached that acceptance in yourself. Like, he basically reached that place where he was like, I really just want to fuck around for some time and suffer for some time and complain for some time. And I'm like, great, do it. This really, like, I'm not judging you. Do it.
That
I have
is
been there.
so there's something so beautiful about that. I cannot express why, but just admitting it to yourself, like for once, not going against what you want, what you were saying at the beginning, just go for what you really want. Because it's so taboo. It's so taboo for us in our culture to stand up and say, like, you know what? I just want to complain. I don't want to progress. I want to talk about progressing and how badly
Yeah.
I want it, but actually I don't want to make any progress. Like,
And there
I,
was also another client who was like, I'm into big people. Like, this is what I enjoy sexually, and I really want to explore this, and I don't understand where it's coming from. Like, great, do it. Who's saying no? Who's stopping you? Like, okay, you want to sleep with many people, you want to have polyamorous relationship, do it. Who's really stopping you? If that's how you want your life experience, do it. Just that what has changed, I'm not making this an invitation to people who want these permissions. You have the permission already. Please go do it. I'm not going to be your coach. So this is not an invitation to people saying, I'm going to coach you to do this. You've already got the permission. Go do what you want. But the people I'm more interested in is who want to embrace passions that are more fun and light. Like, this is where I am in my life right now. So just clarifying that. And I can coach those people through this episode. It's like, yeah, just it's okay. It's
Yeah,
okay.
whatever, absolutely whatever it is that is calling to you that you want more of, even if it isn't. Yeah, I feel like because there are so many people who are on the spiritual path, and everything you're supposed to be doing is working on yourself and growing. It's all about growth. And
Or
yet,
getting better and like,
yes,
I feel
yes,
like yeah, it's all about getting whole, becoming whole. And like that's what complete is about. It's like you there is total acceptance. And when the shame is dropped and when the permission is given, a lot of the things that you think you want to do, you don't actually want to do them anymore. You start realizing how all of these things are coming out of rebellion and out of oppression and out of repression. I have had that journey and spoken about it a lot that when I was rebellious, uh, it was only because I wanted to experience freedom. And the way to experience freedom was to do what people told me I can't do. So the moment someone tells me you can't do this, I have to do it because that's how I experience freedom. And so I was actually getting what I wanted. I was experiencing freedom. It did not matter what I was experiencing on the surface, even if it was killing myself with drugs. Finally, I'm experiencing freedom, and that is the experience I'm here for. So I'm getting the experience I want. But when the permission was there and like no one was opposing me, suddenly I was like, you know what? I'm done with this. I don't need it anymore. And so I could quit all my addictions pretty much overnight. Like it took me literally, it was overnight. I stopped smoking, I stopped drinking, I stopped drugs, I stopped gambling. I just dropped everything because I was like, I'm done with this. I'm not interested in it anymore. And what I really wanted to experience was freedom. And now I have found freedom in other ways. And I don't need this way of expressing or experiencing my freedom anymore. So I feel like that is an important realization is that a lot of the toxic or bad habits or compulsions or addictions and all of that comes from rebellion and repression. And when you give yourself permission, suddenly you realize like the pain starts dissipating and you don't need to do those things anymore. And it's not happening out of discipline. Like that's the most important point. Like you don't need discipline to break it. You just start coming into alignment because the pain starts fading away.
it gives a whole new perspective on, you say often to us about how we need to let people we love suffer. If they're going through something like you pointed out, addiction is a big one for a lot of people. Allow them to suffer, and when this whole outlook of the buffet of life outlook, when you look at it from that perspective, it's so much easier to let someone go through it. I don't know, because we're talking about infinity and it may be like it's taking away the concept of death, and I feel like no, they're just going to keep going on forever and experiencing lots of different things, not just this suffering in this lifetime, but at some point they will have something else going on. Maybe it's to do with that, but it's a lot easier.
Mhm.
I love it.
And in that also you stop wasting your time on people who don't want your time and attention. And you just realize, like, okay, or maybe that's what you want to be intruding in other people's lives. That's the experience you want, do that. But if you realize that's not what you want, you can also let it go and be like, okay, that's the experience they want, let them have it. Let me do what I want. A lot
Mhm.
of people who don't know what they want, they just keep wasting their time in other people's lives. And that's the experience that they want to have. Okay.
Oh, that was me. Just realized
Exactly.
that
I
was,
think we've all been there at some point.
yeah. Yeah, and
Then
you know what? I had a great time. I did, really, honestly. So,
okay,
wow.
let's close this here and see you next time. See
Thank
you.
you. See you in the next lifetime. Yeah.